The online left is absolutely freaking out right now over federal Conservative Party leader Pierre Poilievre stating that there are only two genders that he is aware of, men and women, on live TV, challenging an interviewer to actually name a third, which the interviewer couldn't really do because the only other things that you can name other than men and women is just a bunch of self identification nonsense. The online left is really mad at Polyev for this because they don't live in reality. They don't live in the same reality that the other 90% of Canadians do. Most Canadians, in fact, don't believe in gender theory, but these people are so disconnected from what the average person actually cares about that they can't stop making content that just makes Polyev look good. Polyev looks great coming out of all this because every time he says something common sense, the left then comes out of the woodwork to then start telling everyone how awful it is that he understands what physical reality actually is, that he understands that real things are in fact real and made up things in people's heads are not real. Anyways, I'm going to be your tour guide today, taking you through some of the funniest freakouts from online leftists. But before we get into it, guys, remember to like this video, leave a comment, subscribe if you are not yet subscribed. I'm trying to get to 100,000 by mid-December. Share this video if you can. That really helps me out in the algorithm. But without further ado, we are going to first start off with our favorite former global news journalist, if you can even call her a journalist, Rachel Gilmore, upset, big mad at Poilievre because he doesn't believe in 72 genders or something.
Poilievre is going on live TV and pretending that massive groups of people do not exist so that he can then turn around and be like, yeah, I owned the woke. And it's just like, it's so weird because
you guys were owned. You're currently making a video talking about how Poilievre is a bad man because he is not going to recognize omnigenders. He is not going to recognize people who identify as opposite gender cats. Yes, you are being owned right now, and you are taking part in your own owning. I know that Rachel Gilmore thinks she's making good points because she adds a lot of vocal fry to her voice while she talks, but it just makes her come off as unpleasant. She can serve up as many vocal fries as she wants. It doesn't change the fact that the online left looks irrational arguing with Poilievre over this.
Because facts don't care about his feelings, right?
Yeah.
But he'll say something like what I'm about to show you. And then all of these conservative commentators, et cetera, will post it online and be like, oh my God, he just owned the media. But actually what he did was just basically say, I don't know what I'm talking about, and do a smug smile.
That's just projecting what you do, Rachel.
Over the stupidity and gaslighting and this guy treating people like they're dumb. So I'm going to show you this video and then I'm going to explain to you why what he said made no sense. And please keep in mind that he likely does understand it, but he's pretending he doesn't, so he doesn't have to answer the question of whether he would restrict the rights of an entire group of people.
What right is he currently restricting by believing that there's only men and women, and any other thing is just a bunch of self-ID stuff? It has nothing to do with actual physical reality. You know, when you go to a hospital, they don't care that you call yourself omnigender. They care if you're a man or a woman because it actually affects how they treat you. Different symptoms mean different things if you're a man or a woman. But, he actually does understand, and he's just lying and being smug. Yeah, I know that Poilievre probably understands what all this gender theory stuff is, but like 90% of people, he thinks it's crap.
Anyways. Here you go.
Well, I'm not aware of any other genders than men and women. I mean, if you have any other that you want me to consider, you're welcome to tell me right now.
Well, there's personally, I am a man. I am
okay.
People who say cis man. There are people there who, they say they're
me too.
Gender
I'm a
neutral.
Man. Well,
you are a man. Yes. There are people there who say they're gender neutral. Yeah. They say they're gender neutral. They're a trans person. Is that something that you would recognize here, whereas in the States, at least with their U.S. government, the way they're...
Gender neutral isn't a gender. It's literally saying, I am neutral, which is a non-category, which means it can't be a category because it's saying the third category is not a category. It's silly.
Seeing it, there's only two.
Oh my goodness, why are ads assaulting us, guys? I know people say I should get YouTube Premium. Bear with me. I will quickly skip over this. Oh my goodness. But yeah, I know maybe I should just skip ahead because you guys have seen the clip. So I'm going to skip ahead to where Poilievre or where Rachel Gilmore is actually trying to respond to him on this because we don't really need to see the rest of it here. Jumping back into it when Rachel Gilmore comes back in. Oh, she didn't even let him finish the whole statement. Wow. But here we go with Rachel Gilmore.
We should have a government that just minds its own damn business and leaves people alone.
You know, when you're like a kid and someone will take your arm and make you hit yourself and they'll be like, stop hitting yourself, stop hitting yourself. Same energy in his answer, right? Because just because you say again and again that like something is the case or that you don't understand something doesn't mean that the facts aren't out there and that you're not wrong.
He actually never said he doesn't understand it. He just says he isn't aware of a third gender because there is none.
Poilievre in this interview is literally pretending that he has never heard that trans people exist. He has never heard of non-binary people. He's never heard of two-spirit people, which is a long-standing gender identity in Indigenous communities that...
No, there is like one Indigenous community that had it. And do you know what it is? It's a way of mocking effeminate men. That's what that was. Trying to now turn it into this like progressive thing is insane. It's making fun of eunuchs. That's what that is. What?
That is neither male nor female. It's the 2S part in the 2S LGBTQ acronym in Canada that is like constantly mentioned in government. So as a guy who's basically had literally no other job than being in government, he would have heard of this. So this guy is sitting down with that news anchor and looking him dead in the, well, camera lens, I guess, and saying, you're asking me if I would restrict people's rights, but like, do those people even exist? Which...
Yeah, I guess when you say it like that, i.e. not even engaging with what he actually said, I guess he did say that if you just said that he said something completely different than what he actually said. How is not recognizing random and sundry other genders affecting people? It doesn't. That's what other people have said. Like, he's trying to erase people. No, he's not. They're still people. They're still men or women, and he recognizes them as Canadians. So how is him not like recognizing them, quote unquote, recognizing like gender neutral stuff as like a real substantive thing, hurting people? And this is the problem with the left. They think this is like oppression, that Poilievre doesn't believe in gender theory, ergo somebody has been affected.
When you know they exist is actually a scarier thing to say, Pierre. But his fanboys and bootlickers will hear that idiotic, creepy take and be like, he's stunned that news.
Somehow it's become creepy now. It's become a creepy take for him not to believe in gender neutral. What? Okay. I'm just going to end it there on that one. I'm just because I want to jump over to another one. She's already taking her time repeating herself a lot here. And now I need to jump over to another man that I know and love, Frank Dominic. You guys have probably seen him on the show as well. He is a bit of a chihuahua in terms of how he delivers his message. But I think all these people perceive themselves as being like big figures on the left. That's why I use them. You might think I'm punching down. And while, yes, I'm punching down intellectually, these people are like pillars of the online left. Frank Dominic, Rachel Gilmore. Then I'm going to get to a third guy a little bit later. I'm going to talk first about his gender video. Then I want to jump over to one where he's talking about Trump and trade with Poilievre, because that one is even worse, where he's like acting like Poilievre's like a traitor to the country because he doesn't want to back Ford and Trudeau's stupid play.
Breaking news, Pierre Poilievre insists that there are only two genders and that trans people do not exist.
Well, I'm not aware of any other genders than men and women.
He then proceeded to double down on that.
I'm aware of two. And as far as I'm concerned, we should have a government that just minds its own damn business and leaves people alone.
And notice how he talks about like people should be free and the government shouldn't get into their lives. Well, then why are you dictating how somebody can identify? If the government...
Frank, idiot. How is he dictating how somebody self-IDs? He's not creating a policy where you must wake up in the morning and declare that you're a woman or a man. He is saying that I believe in two genders. And Frank thinks this is oppression, like immediately goes to this is being forced on these people. Poilievre not saying what people like is oppression. This is what left-wing freedom is. It's freedom to do things that are not normal, basically. It is freedom for people who are marginalized, or freedom for people who are not as well off to have more latitude to do what they want and have other people do things for them. That is left-wing freedom. Conservative freedom, freedom on the right, is the ability to not be bothered. So guess what? You can self-ID in a conservative Canada, in a right-wing Canada. If you're non-binary, you can just say that and do whatever. Nobody cares. When it comes to like prisons and sports, when you're affecting other people, it does matter. But guess what? That's not oppression.
And should not be getting involved in people's lives and letting people live their free lives the way that they want to live. Why are you choosing to dictate what somebody is? Why are you choosing to dictate what gender somebody is? As a famous Canadian prime minister once said, there is no place for the state in the bedroom of the nation. You do not get to dictate.
Do you think Pierre Trudeau was a big gender neutral guy? Do you think that guy wouldn't just call you an idiot for bringing this up to him? What?
Dictate what somebody identifies as. You do not get to tell us that we are trying to be the most free nation in the world by restricting people's rights and ability to live good, healthy lives, ones that make them feel free and ones that make them feel full. For those of you who...
This man's a teacher, by the way. He's a teacher in one of the Ontario school systems. I believe it might be the Toronto District School System. He's also in favor of murdering healthcare CEOs, by the way. He backs that Luigi Mangione guy shooting down that father of like 2 or 3 in the streets of New York City. But no, that's okay. He literally made videos justifying why that was actually totally kosher. But if you don't believe that two-spirit and gender neutral is like a real thing, you can respect people doing whatever they want, like, you know, saying whatever they want about themselves. That's fine. But if you don't like personally believe it, that's bad and like dangerous. Shooting somebody in the back and leg, Frank will get back to you on that. He's not quite currently aware if that's actually a bad thing or not. Now let's jump over to this video of Frank Dominic getting very mad at Poilievre for a trade issue. This man's a treasure trove of content for me. Frank, if you're out there, thank you. I love it. I will praise you for putting out this type of stuff. Praises to Frank for making this content, because I wouldn't be brave enough to make something this silly.
Pierre Poilievre has never shut up a day in his life, but now that we have 25% tariffs coming into Canada...
Has Frank ever closed his mouth in his life? This video feels like a contradiction.
Canada, he can't even find the courage to stand up and say, hey, we're going to do retaliatory tariffs. You know who has? Mark Carney and the Liberals. Elizabeth May and the Greens, Jagmeet Singh and the NDP. Everyone is trying to stand up to him. Even Doug Ford and the Ontario Conservatives are standing up to him. But
okay, the Ontario Conservatives are not a real conservative party. Let's make that one thing very clear. By the way, if you live in Ontario, it looks like Doug Ford's going to call an early election. If you want to run for a real conservative party, go and apply for the New Blue Party of Ontario. I'll put a link in the description for their website if you want to apply for that. But like, settle down here, Frank. By the way, a bunch of extremely unpopular political leaders saying something doesn't make it true. I know that these people believe in like democratic socialism, where if 4 people vote to take money away from a 5th person, that's okay. But Ford, Trudeau, Jagmeet Singh, Elizabeth May, I can't believe you even included that person, and Mark Carney are wrong, because they won't do the basic stuff to actually work on border security and see eye to eye with the Trump administration to avoid the tariffs. Do you know why? Because they want the tariffs. They want tariffs because their political careers rely on them being able to contrast themselves with Trump. So instead of actually negotiating with the Trump administration, trying to have allies in the U.S. the way Danielle Smith is doing, they are all steering into it and talking about retaliatory tariffs. Guess what? We lose a trade war. And I'm saying that as a proud Canadian. I'm not less proud because I don't believe we can win a trade war. I'm realistic. I'm patriotic because I want our country to be better every single day in the best way we can in the long run. Retaliatory tariffs are stupid. And Frank trying to be like, I can't believe Poilievre is being a coward on this and running away. Yeah. What is he supposed to do? Say like, oh yes, please destroy our economy, Trump, rather than us just actually putting some drones on the border, actually spending 2% on our defense. My goodness.
Pierre is radio silent. The guy has spent the last 2 years nonstop yelling about things and saying how he's going to fix Canada. And now that we have one of the most existential threats we have ever faced at our border, he is saying nothing. Radio silent because he doesn't want to drag in the associations that he was drawing to himself.
Sorry, Frank, but you can't really accuse Poilievre of yelling all the time when you're like actually foaming at the mouth. Wouldn't it, in theory, make it less of an association between Poilievre and Trump if he was to join and saying we need retaliatory tariffs? Poilievre, if anything, is taking the political risk of being accused of being with Trump to not join with the idiot squad in saying we need retaliatory tariffs, rather than calming down the mood and figuring out what we can actually do. Anyways, I'll let him go for a bit longer.
He wanted to be Canada's populist answer to Trump. He courted the far right. Elon Musk did not endorse
What far right? People who believe in two genders? My goodness.
the Conservative Party in Germany. He endorsed the AfD, which is the far right party. The party which has got in trouble in Germany for their thoughts and relationships to the World War II era of Germany. MPPs from your party have marched and sat and had dinner with white nationalists. And you have received endorsements from these people and from Elon, and you can't even...
They had dinner with white nationalists. No, they didn't. You mean Michael Cooper at one point had like a rum and coke with some Diagolon guys? He didn't know who they were. Oh, yes, Michael Cooper was probably making big plans with them. Yes, I'm pretty sure Poilievre is a big fan of Jeremy McKenzie, despite the disgusting things he said about his wife. People like Frank collect little bits and pieces, little crumbs of information about Poilievre that sound bad, and they keep them in their little collective pill box. And every time Poilievre does anything, they start pulling the stuff out. You took a photo with Jeremy McKenzie. Well, that's interesting. You know that Elon Musk likes you, and he also likes the AfD. By the way, like the one party that actually wants to crack down on just crazy high levels of migration. That's why the AfD is popular, because they have some very rational positions on a few policies that nobody else is taking. That's why. But Elon Musk likes them, and he also likes you. That looks really bad for you. Did you know that in 1880 there was a conservative MP that said something bad? Poilievre, seems pretty indicting of you, doesn't it? What is this?
Speak up about that. You are gutless, Pierre. If you want to be a strong man, be a strong man. Defend Canada. Say you're going to institute retaliatory tariffs. You're going to do a dollar for dollar tariff against Donald Trump and everything he's going to do to Canada. Say that you're going to stand up for the rights of all Canadians. You were screaming for the high heavens when the Liberals brought in Hunka to the House, but you know who clapped for him? You did. All of your party did too.
Oh, I'm sorry, Frank. I'm sorry. That's just gross. Yes, a former SS soldier was brought into the House of Commons, and everyone stood up and clapped. But do you guess who the people who would have actually had the time to research who he was and actually figure out whether he's the right guy to show up to the House of Commons? It would have been Anthony Rota, the former speaker, and the Liberal Party, who was in charge of background checking people that they bring, especially if they're going to get them to stand up in front of the Prime Minister and the President of Ukraine and clap for them. He's mad because he didn't do extra work on behalf of the Liberals to figure out who this random guy is. I'm pretty sure it's not Poilievre's fault. If you're making the same criticisms of the Conservatives that the PPC would make, like the most hardcore PPC guys who will just make up stuff about Poilievre to be mad about, you're not on planet Earth, Frank. Baby, my boy, you need to settle down. Anyways, so there's one more thing I want to talk about today, and it's this video that I made go viral on social media. There is this incredible thing of Steve Boots reacting live to Pierre Poilievre, again, just having a rational stance on gender, thinking that there's only two genders. I'm just going to play a short clip of it. He literally got so mad. He had to get up and start walking around the room.
If elected as prime minister, is that something that you're going to...
I'm just going to speed this ahead for you guys. It's around this point right here, I believe. He is just reacting to the CP24 CTV news segment going on, and I just zoomed in on him specifically on his stream.
To spend time talking about this. My priority is...
Okay. What if you're a trans person? Then do you find it to be a strange priority? Or
He's talking specifically about the part where Poilievre's like, I don't know why people care so much about having gender neutral options on passports and why we're talking about this in a national interview.
Or is it only a strange priority when you don't like it?
To give people back control of their lives and bring back Canada's promise that anyone who works hard gets a powerful paycheck and pension that buys a full.
Except for the pensions he wants to cut. I hate him so much. He wants to extend, or he wants to make retirement later. He wants to cut your pension.
Affordable food, gas, and homes in safe neighborhoods.
Again, the question was about passports.
That's the promise we need for Canadians. If Liberals want to talk about different labels.
The Liberals don't want to talk about it. Trump does. He banned their existence.
Yeah.
What do you want here?
Yes, Trump banned the existence of trans people by saying that federal policy is just going to recognize men and women. What? Yes, he's banned them.
Here. You can't say, oh, well, the Liberals want to talk about gender. The Liberals didn't pass the law banning their existence.
This man also used to be a teacher. Celebrate that fact that this man is no longer teaching kids in Saskatchewan anymore. My goodness. I'm going to give a lot of credit to the pleb. He had a great screenshot like collage here of Steve Boots having a freak out here. By the way, Steve, actually good job on ditching the beanie. Way better hair than I expected under that beanie. He usually has this going on, which wasn't flattering. And now he has this great mane of hair. Dude, you got to stick to the hair. Don't put the hat back on. But the fact he had to get up and walk around the room is hilarious. This man did an interview with Karina Gould when she announced her Liberal leadership candidacy. He does a podcast with Brittle Star, that hacky liberal skit comedian. This guy is somebody who tries to take himself seriously. So he's not somebody I see as someone who's going to do artificial reactions to get views. That was actually him being unable to contain himself from having to pace because Poilievre doesn't care about having an X option on passports instead of men and women. My goodness. Anyways, that's it for me today, guys. Again, like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, link to me if you can, any other great people freaking out over Poilievre just believing in common sense. It's going to be glorious when the Conservatives take over because they're never going to stop being this way. They are going to continue just being malcontents. It will be sunny days outside, actual sunny ways outside. The taxes are going to be lower, regulations are going to be lower, business is going to be booming, families are going to be more stable. We're not going to be overwhelmed with migrants from everywhere, temporary foreign workers and whatnot, and these people will still be upset. They will be sitting under a tree, depressed, beside themselves, because Poilievre isn't a leftist. Anyways. Again, reminder, if you live in Ontario, consider if you agree with me that the Doug Ford PCs have been awful in government out there. They are literally no different than the PCs, the Liberals, and the NDP. He is closer to the Liberals than O'Toole was. If you don't like Ford, consider running for the New Blue Party. Vote for the New Blue Party. At some point, the PCs need to be corrected. We can't just say, well, they're 2% better than the provincial Liberals. Let's vote for them. At some point, you actually need a good option, not just a ever so slightly better option. That doesn't fly here anymore. Standards need to go up. New Blue is a good option. Jim Karahalios, the guy who runs that party, in fact, was the one who started the Axe to the Carbon Tax movement back in 2018, took tons of slings and arrows from the conservative establishment everywhere around Canada, got sued because he challenged Patrick Brown trying to introduce a carbon tax. And so now he's running the New Blue Party in Ontario. Again, vote for it. Do all that great stuff. I'll see you guys later.